Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl back again for another movie spoiler review. And we're continuing the renaissance here of films. And we're talking about The Mummy Returns, the sequel to the original, in my opinion, the true Mummy movie. And you can see the dip in quality from the first one into this. More so because it's still better than the freaking third installment of the Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, but this is around an era when there's like a from 1999 with Phantom Menace and this movie, and like because this movie came in 2002. It still made a lot of money, but no, it came out in 2000 May of 2001. So just a couple of years uh, after the, because they probably just greenlit immediately the second one, and it was during this time when it's like they, well, movies kind of like The Mummy, where it's like these two met, and it's like, oh, you're doing a sequel, okay? They always had a kid, so they throw a kid in there, and I didn't like the kid in this. I mean, he wasn't the worst child actor I've seen, but uh, he had his moments. But by and large, they could have done so much without throwing this kid in the mix, because they're trying to not Home Alone it, but it's just like get like a smarmy little kid with who studies a lot and stuff like that, but it's just like just not like a punk, but he's just obnoxious. But every once in a while he does get a chuckle out of me, especially when one of the henchmen named Lochna was supposed to be in charge of looking after him, and he just being annoyed by this kid. And when he's just like mimicking him, it's just like he's tapping his fingers, at the same time as he's tapping his fingers, and he's just like, it's like he jams the knife between his fingers. It's like, oh my god, what perfect aim! What are you talking about? I missed. And he still messes with the dude, and it's like he just like annoys the hell out of him, and I almost respect it. And as soon as the dude was about to snap, he's like, I gotta go to the bathroom. I was like, I can't go while you watch it. And he turns around and was like, I don't trust your look. Look, it just like, that's probably like the best scenes I've seen from that kid. It's just him just messing with this henchman. But beyond that, but anyway, the movie starts when they are going through this other tomb. Evie's been having these visions of a past life of her being Queen Nefertiti, Titi, not Titty, Nefertiri. Uh, is probably one of the most well-regarded, queens of Egypt, as one of the great royal wives of Ramses the Great. So she's she probably was a good person, but pharaohs at that time still enslaved Israelites, so it's kind of like, it's still not good by and large. But it was the time, so it's like, but no, even back then they knew slavery was bad, and like they all had to know because like people like enslave others, and they had to because even Vikings had enslaved people here and there, and like sometimes warriors had to rescue people, enslave, capture people because even way back then they knew inherently that was a bad thing. So I can't really cut them that much slack given their time period, because even before the ancient Egyptians was a thing, that culture was a thing, other cultures had slaves and or at least captured people and enslaved them, but they had to be rescued because people rescued them because they didn't want people enslaved. So it's like she might have been like a good person and like a very benevolent queen, but still had slaves. So, but anyway, they're raiding this tomb, trying to uncover the connection to her visions, because it was just getting worse, I guess. According to Rick, as they're doing like this, not a long diatribe, but just like a darn near buttload of like a backstory in like 2 minutes. You introduced to Rick's kid, Alex. He just kind of like a bookworm, but like you got a bit of the adventurous spirit of his father. You see, like, well, Evelyn, I know she's supposed to be part Egyptian as the character. However, I guess like a reincarnation of Nefertiti, but by and large, the woman Rachel Weisz, because even to this day, because there's a movie that came out a few years ago called Gods of Egypt, where even then you still cast a lot of white actors. I know like actors are playing a role, they playing a role, they trying to play something other than themselves kind of situation. But at the same time, they're supposed to be playing Egyptians or gods, and it's Egypt's part of Africa, and like you could have like roles for these things in a mix of Egyptian, black, and Arab, and Moroccan, even, or Persian, even. Because by and large, they kind of like a mixed bag up in Africa, and like you can use any one of like people who can act, or at least new up and comers to star in these kind of things. But you cast like just the most famous names you can think of, and by and large they were like a white cast to play Egyptians, and it just like even as soon as that I never seen the movie. I don't know if I'm going to see it, but maybe if it's on at some point, I'll try to take a look at it. But it's like when that came out, man, people was like had a whole lot to say about how like this is way before Oscar So White. This didn't win an Oscar, but it just kind of brings that to the forefront. It's like, you very much like didn't even bother to consider black actors or Arab actors or Persian, or like anybody who can like fit that mold, or have like a believability in the face, skin tone, their natural skin tone and hair, and like just being from that area. But anyway, because like Gerard Butler, pretty sure Gerard Butler is Irish, Is Robert Irish or Scottish? It has to be Irish, right? One second. Yeah, he's Irish. He cast an Irish man to play a Egyptian god Set. Wow. And a guy from the main actor from that. I know I was talking about some whole other thing, but it still falls in line with Egypt stuff. You cast a Danish guy to be Horus. Uh, uh, so, wow. Chadwick Boseman was in this. As Thoth as the Egyptian god of wisdom. So wow. One black guy so far. The woman who played Electra from the Daredevil show, she was in this. She played the goddess of love, Hathor. Because she's French, but she has to be mixed with something else. Cambodian. So Asian and French. An Australian. Jeffrey Rush as Ra. British man as Seth Architect. Cyrus, white guy. Australian. So you got one black guy and a woman, Miss Young, and half Cambodian, half French woman. But still, it's not in the same region. So, wow. One black guy. And I know, look, like, yeah, and they even acknowledged the fact it was like a completely whitewashed cast. And nobody bothered to raise any type of, like, raise a hand, like, do you think this is like a little kind of lily white in this thing? You got one black guy, and it's like it's like a big sheet of white paper, and that's all the cast. And you got like little dots of black here and dots of this one dot yellow, and it's like, yeah, that's our whole cast. It's like, and Australian's still white, so it's kind of like don't have time to chalk them up and white people in these different little categories. They're all like kind of like a thing. So yeah, I want to do a little further research after this video, because that is just like, wow. Anyway, so they went back home after, like, these little raiders, these three raiders, these, Molar and Curly type here. I'm not gonna bother you and learn their names. It's like, I barely remember their doggone names. It's not even that important. They were nothing type of characters. I mean, they had like one phony moment where one, like, the skinny guy was the big doofus, and it's like one's obviously the mo of the team, and then this like the more handsome dude is a little more buffer who constantly just like mentioned like this is cussed. And it's like this one funny moment where like the leader is like, "What's with you and cusses?" And then like the skinny guy's like, "Yeah." It's like, "This is cuss. That is cuss." And it's like that was a legitimately funny little moment between these three before they end up dying. Partway through the first act, leading into the second act. But by and large, it's like I don't miss them. I don't think anybody missed these three at all. Cause, they just need like some decent deaths, and they serve that purpose. Because these cult members, who wants to try to take over the world, you got this different museum curator here, Boltus, and Miaz, who is a reincarnation of Anck-su-namun that eventually regains her memories thanks to Imhotep after they resurrect him, and also unlocks, which I did not understand until now after I rewatched the film and upon a little bit of research. Because ever since in the past, whenever I watched The Mummy Returns, I was wondering like, okay, why is she's like, like what's with this whole connection thing? And like, it's just that Imhotep inadvertently not only unlocked Anck-su-namun, she's, Anck-su-namun is, related to Nefertiti, and Nefertiti's, reincarnated to be Evelyn, which brings to the forefront that in the first film, Imhotep, when he was resurrected, tried to bring back his love in the body of her sister, even kissed her, and it's like that didn't like, because that always bothered me, not bothered, but it's always something was on my mind. Whenever I watched this film, it's like, man, it's like it's gonna be a hard explanation as to like, I try to bring you back into your rival's body, your own sister's body and stuff like that, and made out with her. So like, let's rule the world together. It's like that didn't really raise any kind of like questions. So I guess not. But the coat, not only I guess because the in the first film, at the end of the first film, when Imhotep was being submerged and like dissolved into this black goo, it kind of like turned to amber, I guess, and then they solidified, and they like dug that up, and they need like the Book of the Dead to resurrect Imhotep, because they want the power of the Scorpion King, which played by Dwayne The Rock Johnson, being his first film, which he doesn't really have any lines except for one during the early way, like we doing like another past story about like how the Scorpion King was trying to conquer this particular area, this other kingdom. He lost, and his army was pushed out, pretty much exiled to the desert. He made a pact with Anubis that he will give him his soul if he gives him the power to conquer his enemies in the lands of Egypt. So he bit off part of the scorpion that came from the ground to seal the pact. And it didn't dawn on me until like not last, maybe like when I rewatched this back in 2019 or 2018, that I realized that at that, if you look at that moment when when The Rock, maybe you already knew this, but when you see like The Rock bite off part of the Scorpion's head and partial body, uh, when you see him again as a scorpion monster, you see part of his head and chest is like fixated on like an eaten part of that same scorpion, just enlarged. Like, it always freaked me out, as a kid, because I don't like bugs at all. So that always freaked me out when I see, The Rock on top of this scorpion body. And it was like, still horrible CGI. But I want to bring up another fact. I know this movie is PG-13. I know that. But you're showing a ancient Egyptian, army battle with The Rock leading. And like you see like the Rock with a shield and a sword, and he's like, him and his armies, going at these other army. And it's like, there's a shot where The Rock has his shield up, sword raised, and like in a perfect position to go down and chop or stab or whatever this other opponent is in front of him. But no, he chose to do this, overhand chop, but then decide to shield bash him instead, landing on his feet and then move on to another opponent. I'm not a soldier and not like a historian or anything like that, but that was a pivotal display of warfare. And you got like an opponent dead to rights, and you could just stab them outright and then move on to the next opponent. But you chose to just bash him with your shield and knock him on his butt and then move on. Instead, at the very least, take a stab at him while he's on the ground, and then move on to the next person. That was like an odd thing that I saw. And I know I've seen this like plenty of times, but that little moment, I was like, I know it's PG-13, but you can at least fake stab people. You don't have to show any blood or viscera or anything like that. But acknowledge the fact that they're in like an ancient battle with swords and shields, and people are going to get cut. And even though it's PG-13, at least fake cut them. Acknowledge that you still made contact instead of just like doing this pansy move like this. Anyway, the cult ended up breaking inside the house of the O'Connells. And I guess, I don't know, it's like what's up with Rick's family life, whatever like that, but it's kind of like, I guess he doesn't have it because he went to join the Legionnaires, who by and large, those soldiers, well, at least around this time frame, doesn't have family, so nothing to tie him down with. So, standing the reason that when he hooked up with Evelyn, they, I guess it's like a big house. So I guess when they raided certain, I wouldn't call it raided. They when they do their archaeological thing, where treasures they found, they used to like bring to museums and like acquire like a wealth, and to be able to live comfortably in their home. It's like this big home, fill all these little other ancient things and books and stuff like that, which is a pretty good looking house. I'm not even gonna knock it. So he just lives in England with them and with his wife and daughter. And every so often, I don't know what Jonathan's living situation is, but he just like pops up wherever he wants to with like girl on hand. And then, of course, you see Alex, mess around because they found like the Scorpion King's bracelet that fell off after his soul was claimed after he accomplished his mission of conquering his enemies. when the bracelet was put on, it showed him the location that he has to go through within a week. Otherwise, the bracelet will kill him. So the Colt's looking at the bracelet so that way they can track down the location they need to go to, so that way they can find the Scorpion King, have Imhotep fight him because he's the only one powerful enough to deal with that. But you know, Ardith shows up to help out in the fight, along with just Ardith. And they all, like, you see like Evelyn finally kicks some ass a little bit, but well, there's no but to it. She finally kicks some ass in this. It's not like on a level of like Batman or anything like that, but it's like it's swashbuckling in a way. So it's kind of like, I'm just glad they did something, because like, most other swashbuckling sequels to the original, where like the I want to say damsel. I only think Evelyn will be qualified as like a damsel. She still like hold her own by and large, but well, I think more so in this film, she's like every once in a while Rick still has to like help her, but she's still like, physically she kind of like holds her own better than the last movie, where she's just completely like a kind of like a bookworm. Matter of fact, you could see like a dynamic between how she was in the first film and into the second film, because in the first film she's all like prim and proper and like wearing these little glasses and that little librarian, little curly little hairs, everything like that, and in just like that. But now, excuse me, now in the sequel, you see her, kind of like a little more confidently, confident, dressing like a very, not provocative, but it's kind of like, something you expect, Egyptologist or an adventurer to wear. She's like, just kind of like these, thigh high boots and everything like that. She's been on these kind of adventures for a while with Rick, where she's, more comfortable mixing it up a bit. And she's got longer hair and like, just like I said, just more confident in herself. So I do appreciate that. Much more better than most other female leads in certain other things. This has felt more authentic. In fact, I'm gonna use this as an example. The Paris film, like at least the first, well, the one with like Miss Swan. Is that her name, Miss Swan? Like, played by, well, Keira Knightley's character. She not like a bookworm, but she plays that whole damsel thing in the first film. But by the next two films, she seems like trying to play tough. That's the thing. I hate it when like you doing like trilogies or just a plain old sequel with the same female lead, and she's was like in this case, just like a prim and proper type of woman, but then you in a sequel have her like I'm not. It's kind of like Sakura in Naruto, where it's like, she was a certain particular way, like she doesn't feel like she was like contributing to anything, but as you are depicting her showing growth, you can run into the mistake of making her feel like, oh, she's trying to fake, like, you think I'm some weak-willed woman that can't handle herself. I'm going to show you how much of a badass I am. And it's like, I cannot stand that. It's so hollow and kind of forced female empowerment bullcrap. And it's like, even Evelyn in this, I like it. It's like the low end of a good thing, but it's still like a good thing as far as like showing that this is some growth. She's a little more confident. She's not perfect like some Disney movies like to depict like female leads. Like she gotta have it all together with no struggle. I love it. She's not perfect, but she's evolved, and it doesn't seem forced. I do appreciate that. Um, she's ended up getting kidnapped, uh, causing like Arden, Rick, John, and Alice to go try to help her. Now, Arden brings up, which Alex and early in this in the movie brings up about like Rick's tattoo, which we never seen in the first film because mostly he's been wearing like these little armbands, all the time. But there's been times he obviously wasn't wearing armbands in a couple of scenes, I think. But I'm struggling to remember if because no one wasn't paying attention to his wrist to point out that tattoo. I like to think that he always had that tattoo in the first film. I could be wrong. I'm like 60 to 70% sure that he had that tattoo in the first film. But they bring it up in the second film, and that tattoo, according to Arden, represents that he's a warrior of God. Because he quotes some kind of like little secret line that Rick, now I won't say had no choice, but acknowledges, and like, what would you say if I said blah 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 blah, and then Rick returns the dialogue, like, then I would say blah 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 blah. Now, how'd you know? It's like, well, it's because it's a tattoo. It's like, yeah, I got that when I was a child in orphanage and stuff like that. I got that slapped on when I was a kid in an orphanage. It's never really expressed further than that, or at least explained further than that. That don't know how he got that little language to relate to him to the point where he recalls it verbatim after all this time since he was a kid when he first got that tattoo. I don't know who gave him that tattoo, or didn't bother to explain what that tattoo is supposed to represent. Maybe if they did and he just didn't believe it, but it's whatever. But that's something that should have been like touched on a little bit more. They rescue Evie but resurrect Imhotep. So they were on this double-decker bus, fighting off these mummies, and like a cool shot. It was probably like one of the best fight scenes in this film. But Alex ended up getting kidnapped, leading to this world kind of like a race, in parts of the Egyptian lands, to track down Alex and rescue him, and to stop Imhotep from resurrecting the Scorpion King. I'm not going to dwell on the whole Alex stuff, and he's leaving clues behind, with very because he had the arm blessing, so he'll know which places to go next, but he's leaving behind like sandcastles of like very very perfect sandcastles of certain kind of landmarks, certain landmarks that only his family would know where it is. My thinking is, what's stopping us from a sandstorm coming by when you leave the area to wipe that clue away? But it's whatever. But they eventually got got a hold of an old friend of Rick's, because like just like Indiana Jones, he somehow like befriends certain characters through his life. Some find him Rick irritating because they got him into certain scrapes and that kind of adventurer story, that typical adventurer story, where it's like he's been around for a bit. He met up with some like kind of a kooky characters that he can easily call upon to do him a favor or a solid, or pay in order to do certain tasks for him that he alone cannot do. So he called up his buddy Izzy, who has this dirigible or hot air balloon to help them, get to where they need to be. Maybe not super fast, but definitely quiet. Then you see like the water face attack them. So now they're pretty much like, after the Imhotep found out that like he's leaving like breadcrumbs, Alex is leaving breadcrumbs for them to keep following him. So after he used the water that was nearby at that last location to pretty much crash their dirigible, Izzy stays behind to fix up the ship while the rest of the gang traverse through like this oasis that was built up after oasis and pyramid that was built up after Scorpion King made that pact with Anubis, and it's filled with like these mummified pygmies. And like as like the cult is going through the this dense forest, they see like skulls and skeletons and like in like horrific positions, like on stakes, or like a little like a rotisserie kind of thing, like pigs be on. They see some of them on those, and like others caged. And like Baltus like points out like some of the skeletons still have like armor and other uniforms on, and like there's one from like Roman legionnaires from Alexander, and then there's some soldiers from Napoleon's crew. So there's been a couple of soldiers that wandered into here, probably searching for the exact same thing, to like maybe like for gold, or just to bring resurrect the Scorpion King to help rule like the land, because like obviously Alexander and Napoleon both try to conquer their regions or the better part of the world, but needed more manpower or firepower. But sent off their little group of specific, like a little just like a handful of soldiers to go trek through this unknown area to find what they need, but never obviously came back. So now they're being like hunted down by all these little pygmy things, and they eventually rescue Alex, and like Rodriguez like carrying his son to the rest of the group while fighting off shooting down all these pygmies and everything like that. Alex is telling them, no, we got to get to, it's the seventh day. They got to get him to that pyramid before the sun rises. Otherwise, he will be dead. And so I still find this very cool. And I love this bit because as a kid, when we watching with my cousins and everything like that on DVD, you see like Rick carrying his son and just booking it before that sun rises. And like, if right at the home stretch he dives bombs right into the through the doorways, and like the in a nick of time, and that bracelet pops right off, and his son is safe. Like to this day, I remember saying to my cousins and my brother, it's like, you just made it, you lucky gun. Like you just like you was bugging it. It was like, like when it comes to your kid, you run as fast as you can to save their life. And that dude was like gunning it. Like, it's like amazing. That was fun to see. Not as fun as like watching Captain America and Black Panther in Infinity War just running ahead of their army army of soldiers to take on like these aliens, like, because those two was booking it too, because of course they got like super speed. not like the Flash or anything like that, but they, enhanced speed, so they like easily booking it faster than their troops. But yeah, uh, then Anck-su-namun comes out of nowhere, stabs Evie, kills her, and at this moment, moving forward, it's like, well, I'm pretty sure then maybe another scene where it's like it feels like Rachel Weisz, obviously she didn't return for the third film. I don't think anybody should have just. I don't think the third film should have even existed. I think like the first two should have just been that. Should have been it. But I think she was like completely checked out at this moment going forward into the film, because just certain lines that she was saying that sounds very like blasé, just a little bit. She's a good enough actress to play it off just enough, but if you pay closer attention, you can tell she got a little hint in her voice where she kind of like just kind of checked out. It's like, God, it's the last day of shooting. Let's just get right through this. Not like just get right through this, but it's like I'm going to like trudge along kind of situation. But Alex and Jonathan, while they're trying to fight off Anck-su-namun, is trying to use the Book of the Dead to resurrect Evie, which eventually they did, and she fights off Anck-su-namun, who in the past always beats Nefertiti in the fight, but now she's dealing with Nefertiti and Evelyn, who has her own, thanks to Rick, her own unorthodox way of fighting, mixed in with Nefertiti's hand-to-hand combat knowledge. And of course, she just like, gives up and is like, just runs away. And while like, when Imhotep enters the sanctum, Anubis swipes away all his power, and you don't get your powers in this fight. If you want to earn this army to do what you will with it, you gonna have to beat the Scorpion King as a mortal man. So it's down to Rick and Imhotep while they trying to fight hand-to-hand combat, like hand-to-hand, or like at least using axes on each other. The Scorpion King awakens, and like Imhotep trying to pull a fast one, saying like, I'm your humble servant, but he's trying to kill you. And then, the Scorpion King is trying to come after Rick. Oh, and there's this funny moment. Well, like after like the Boltus, what was it, Boltus, right? Yeah, Boltus, who's the last cult member left after the Pygmies killed off the rest of his troops, and Lochnan got killed by Arden, and Arden's like, because Boltus took the bracelet, slapped it on, and used it on his wall to unlock the Jackal army of Anubis, but as a result, he got his, the flesh just eaten off. So he's in a complete shock as he's just trudging through, the corridors, and like the Majad and Arden is fighting off all these jackals who, according to Arden, the only way to kill these suckers is cutting off their heads, because they're pretty much like black sand creature jackal things. So while Arden is dealing with things on the outside, Rick is trying to convince Jonathan to open, because he's been carrying the staff along the way, that he like kind of pilfered in a way from I think like a poker game, he said, or something, but it turns into a spear, and he needs, it's like a spear of Osiris, I think, and he supposedly used that to anybody, or at least anybody can pretty much use that to, if they kill the Scorpion King, they can choose to use Anubis's army to rule the world, or just send them all back to the underworld. And of course, Imhotep tried to do it, but as while it's in midair, Rick snatches it right out of the air, like just like an interception, and then uses it to just stab the Scorpion King. And like the most badass line out of the entire film, and it's like he just tells like the Scorpion King, "Go to hell and take your friends with you," and because the Scorpion King has, if he's killed, he has to do what the person who killed them say, and even though it's like a badass line, it's still in order, so he has to go to hell and take his army with him. So, because of this, like the Anubis' pact is broken, so all the oasis and the pyramids are just being sucked in and crumbling. The force is being sucked into the pyramid, and all the pygmies and other dangers with it, and like the pyramid is collapsing, and because of this, like Anaximandron and Evelyn are seeing Rick and Imhotep like dangling over the edge that's like a gaping hole to the underworld, and so Evie is just like walking in, despite Rick telling her no, just go, take Alex, get out of here, save yourself, and she's like, no, I'm going to get my man. And she's like dodging all these like stalactites falling down, and she's like just like perfect dodge, and just like come and pulls him out, and like Imhotep like looks. It's probably the only time I ever felt sorry for Imhotep, and I think a lot of people felt sorry for him in this specific moment, even though he was like a bastard up until this point. He sees Rick and Evelyn risking life and limb to help each other, and he's begging his love, someone he risked everything for, to resurrect, and he begging Anaximandron like, help me, and then Anaximandron just looks on and it's like, no, and it's just like, and just runs away, Anaximandron. And like I remember my stepmother was laughing at that moment because that was funny as hell, because like it's funny but fucked up too, because like you can tell, like, I don't know, first and foremost, the woman who was the reincarnation of Anaximandron, I don't know, maybe she was just part of the cult and was believing what they was believing in or whatever, but it's just like, I don't know what was in it for her throughout this entire thing. She had to stab herself to like kind of like die in order to resurrect her true self, which is Anaximandron. But Anaximandron herself, it's like, were you with Imhotep because maybe like, because I don't know, it's like kind of like a thing where like when like a daughter wants to defy her father, it's like, oh, no man is not allowed with you, and it's like you'll be married off to whom I say you do, whoever I deem who you be with, that's who you're gonna be with despite anything else. And like just out of defiance, she just hooks up with Imhotep, and they just became a thing. But I don't know, it's just she just was with him out of defiance, and she like power, and she was just kind of just corrupt, spoiled brat kind of thing. But it's just like I never knew like what was in it for her. Maybe she's just like the power and like the status, or just to do what she wants kind of situation. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's just because it was just out of defiance of her father, where she just ends up with Imhotep, knowing he had true power, and and she's like defying. She was spoiled, and she's just like defying her father just to do whatever she felt like, kind of situation. But in that moment, she became like even worse than Imhotep, because the one thing I think a lot of people would agree that they respect Imhotep for, the fact that he went through a lot for his woman. Now, someone you can tell he actually truly loved this woman. That he went through like the Hamdai, he killed a lot of people, and went through a lot just to bring her back. Someone he thought truly cared for him in return, but I guess he never like seen her reciprocate that love, which is something that he probably should have considered. But love is you can be blinded by love, I guess. But that really broke my heart a bit. It was like I definitely felt sorry for Imhotep for that specific moment. Didn't excuse anything he's done, but it's like I did legit feel bad. So he just resigned himself. It's like, it's like he gave like a nod to like a slight nod to Eve and Rick. Like, you were my enemies kind of situation, but you risk everything for each other, and despite anything else, I respect that. So he just resigned himself, just falls into the underworld. Anck-se-Amon falls in a pit of scorpions trying to run away, and she falls in, and is like probably the most horrific part of the entire film. It was like, it's PG-13, but it was still like, it's like very approaching that R rated, because she falls in a pit of scorpions. I thought it was those flesh eating beetles, but it's the Scorpion King's pyramid, so it makes sense it'll be filled with like some scorpions. So these scorpions kind of sting her and all the other stuff, so she kind of like dies in a pit of scorpions. And like you get to see her like just it was like, it's intense as a kid to watch that. It's like, oh my god. It doesn't even have to be, sometimes it doesn't even have to be blood or gore. It can be something subtle as that can really make you cringe. So John, Alex, Evie, Greg climb to the top of the pyramid where Izzy meets up with them with the fixed aircraft, and holds them up, and Jonathan sees like a big crystal, it was like a crystal or a diamond, a crystal jewel on top of the pyramid. And he's like, at first he was like, because he tripped and fell over, and so he's dangling over the side of the dirigible. He's like, let me up, and he saw that big crystal. Let me down. And the ring is like, it's not worth your life, you idiot. It's like, yes it is. It's like, oh my god. As a kid, it's like, okay, that's just the right amount of comedy moment in these films. It's like, The Mummy Returns is like a dip in quality from the original, but every once in a while it's still enjoyable enough, whereas it doesn't completely suck. They could have taken out the kid completely. I think the kid was the weakest point in the entire film, to be honest with you. But that moment was like, he's like, me and like, my family members that was watching the film with me on DVD at the time, I remember us just kind of like rooting for him to get like, come on, just get it. You got it in your wrist, got it, and got it. And it's like right before the entire place collapsed, and like pull me up. It was like yeah, he got his little crystal. I was like, okay, like that was nice. You see Arden like over by the sand dunes, is like saluting his friends as they fly off. So yeah, it's pretty much the end of the film, but it's like, I mean, like I still enjoyed The Mummy Returns. Like the first Mummy is still like probably the best one, obviously, but it's like every once in a while, I watch. Only time I probably watch The Mummy Returns is if I'm watching the first Mummy movie and watch them back to back. I don't just solo The Mummy Returns because I don't know why. It just feels like it feels like hollow or empty, like I'm missing something if I don't watch the first Mummy movie, then the Returns at because I can watch the original Mummy by itself, no problem, But if I want to watch The Mummy Returns, I have to see the first one first, then get into Returns if I'm feeling up to watching the Returns at any point. But yeah, it's yeah. I mean, and the first two Mummy movies are just very high end B movies, and you can to this day you can still enjoy them. I mean, they're still fun, fun to watch, and stuff to get from this. And but thanks to these movies, I had like an appreciation for the Egyptian culture, and as well as like Yu-Gi-Oh. In these two movies, I had like a very fascination with like that culture, and respect. It's like the Japanese, Native American, and Egyptian cultures probably one of the three favorite historical cultures that I've found fascinating, and did my fair bit of research on them, especially their pantheons and stuff like that. It's something that I thought was like very cool growing up. But yeah, that was The Mummy Returns. Tomorrow I'll do like a review for Bedazzled to wrap up the week of my favorite Brendan Fraser films. That's part of the October Halloween movie review months. Movie review month. So don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff to Talkative Carl on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Follow me on my Patreon. All the links are in the description. I'll see you guys. Well, I'm going to play a little bit more of the Overwatch Halloween Terror in a little bit, for at least a couple of hours at least, because I'll be sometime tomorrow. I gotta do a review of DC Fandom that's going on tomorrow. Then after that, I'll do my review for the Bedazzled. So yeah, look forward to all that. So yeah, I just need some time to get everything pulled down and everything like that, so I can boot up Overwatch and play some more of that Halloween Terror. Just to acquire some more gear. At least I still need to get that freaking costume for Genji. Even though I'm not a Genji player, I still want that cool ass costume for this. They have for this year's Halloween costumes. I just need to get on that to get that free gear. But anyway, yeah, I will see you guys soon. So take care. And just let me know what you think of Mummy Returns. Yeah, do you like it, or do you hate it, or is there some you caught in between? Or at least let me know what good moments that you found enjoyable throughout the entire film. So yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Be safe. Bye.